Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies according to the almighty algorithm. And with me, as always, is the Brian De Palma to my Michael Mann, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn. How are you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing fantastic. I watched movies.
Yes, so this is one of our mini episodes called What You Watchin', where we talk about what we've been watching. So go ahead first, Kyle.
Family movie night. We watched Swiss Family Robinson from 1960 on Disney Plus. This was kind of a cool movie about the Robinson family who are Swiss and they get shipwrecked.
Do they have cheese?
No, they missed opportunity on this island. And they build a treehouse while they're waiting to get rescued, and it's a really awesome treehouse. And then there's three sons, and the youngest one like traps all sorts of animals and eventually traps a tiger too. It's a good family movie. I like this one a lot. It's on Disney Plus. And then, because the new Dune movie is coming out later this year, I read the book for the first time, and then I watched Dune from 1984. I think this is streaming maybe on HBO Max, but I watched this on a DVD with Kyle MacLachlan as the
Quizrack Hatterack.
Quizrack Hatterack. And, then it had Sting in there, and who else was in there? Lots of people. This movie might be even weirder than the book. Directed by David Lynch, so it's going to be weird. He's doing a narrative film here, which is a little weird for him to begin with.
He admitted he hadn't read the book before he got the job.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. He probably just read the Cliff Notes.
I feel like he's a guy who would do his research.
Yeah. This really isn't a great movie, but it is a fascinating movie. And that's all I can really say about it. It's fascinating. So if you're not really into Dune, I wouldn't probably seek this out. You might just get bored with it. But hopefully the new movie will be pretty good.
How about this? How about them worms?
Them worms. Those giant Beetlejuice sandworms.
Yes, I wish it was the sandworms from Beetlejuice. That'd make the movie so much better. I have not seen this version of Dune. I've just read the book a couple times.
Well, and then I didn't know there was other movies made. I actually borrowed the DVD from a friend. He's like, oh, here's some other DVDs. And there was like a made-for-TV movie, and then they did a sequel to the made-for-TV movie, Children of Dune.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't even know they made I didn't know they made movies of any of the books beyond just the first one.
Yeah, because I know that like Frank Herbert wrote 4 or 5 of them, and
I think at least 5 of them.
And then he died, and then like his son and a co-author continued the series.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'll read any more because I've talked to people who really like the first book, and then they're like, after that it gets really weird. I'm like, the first book's already weird enough. But anyway.
If you get to God Emperor of Dune, then it gets really weird.
Nice. So then on Pluto TV, I watched Saving Silverman from 2001.
Oh, yes. With Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn and Jack Black and the Jason Biggs. And this is basically Jason Biggs gets broken up with, and he can't find another girl, but then he finally finds someone, and she's really controlling, played by Amanda Peet, and so she's super controlling, and his friends Steve Zahn and Jack Black do not like this. So they basically like his old the girl that he was totally in love with in high school moves back to town, and they're like, oh, and she likes him, so let's kidnap his current girlfriend. And so they kidnap her, hold her in their garage, and then try and get him together with this girl that they went to high school with. And it's like such a terrible premise because they're kidnapping a girl, but like this movie's so funny, and it's just silly fun. So I
really like Jack Black, and like when the fiance who's just like a psychiatrist or psychologist or something.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, I'm gay.
Yeah. That is like
convinces him that. And then the whole thing with Neil Diamond.
Yeah,
because
they're like a Neil Diamond cover band, and like she makes them break up, and like the rest of the movie doesn't have anything to do with Neil Diamond at all until they kidnap him at the end.
Yes.
To break up a wedding, and it's just a funny movie. I like this one, and I don't know if this one really got much recognition when it came out. It was I think it was post American Pie, and I don't think Jason Biggs never made it big, but I like this one, and it's on Pluto TV. Then I watched another classic, Total Recall from 1990, not the Colin Farrell remake.
I did see the Colin Farrell one in theaters. It was okay.
This one's on Netflix, and most people know this one. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Quaid. They're in the future, and he wants to get like a vacation implanted in his brain, and he wants it to be a vacation to Mars because they've colonized Mars at this point in the future. And then you find out, he might have actually already been to Mars before, and then hilarity ensues. Oh no. and then he fights Michael Ironside. And there's mutant people on Mars.
Yep.
It's a cool movie. I love this one. He
got his ass to Mars.
What's that?
When he got his ass to Mars.
He did. Based on a Philip K. Dick short story?
Yep.
I couldn't remember if it was one of his novels or his short stories. Then I watched Peeping Tom from 1960.
Nice.
On Amazon Prime. This is a weird slasher film from 1960. And the main lead has this weird accent, is like, what is happening with that? But it's this guy who he works as a cameraman for, a studio. And then on the side, he takes pictures and video and stuff like that. And it's kind of voyeuristic. And then he ends up
I've been like really voyeuristic.
I mean, it's called Peeping Tom. And so he's voyeuristic, and then he films women as he kills them to get the expression of fear on their face. And the thing is like, it's this weird, when you learn about his upbringing and all this stuff, it's one of those where a very early film where you don't think he's doing, he's doing wrong, but you have some sympathy for the character, even though he's a killer, because of the way he was raised by his father and all this. So, and how that made him turn out. It was a very interesting character study.
Of course, then they show like, is this a slasher? Is this not a slasher? You can get into that whole debate. What's truly the first slasher film? Would it be this? Would it be Psycho?
Yeah, and would it be Black Christmas?
True, Black Christmas.
There's a lot to be said for all of them. I would totally count this as a slasher film.
Or at least like a progenitor.
Yeah. It's got kind of the early signs of a slasher. Like, I'm kind of on the train of thought of Black Christmas being one of the first like full on slasher flicks. But I think this would qualify in certain instances, or certain themes of it. But anyway, it was an interesting movie. It was very weird. And that one was streaming on Amazon Prime. Anyway, then I watched The Lady Vanishes from 1938. This is a
really fun Hitchcock one. I like this one.
Yeah, this is an old black and white Hitchcock film from 38. So this was one of his earlier ones. I don't know when he started. Early 30s?
He started in the silent era.
Okay. Oh, that's right. He did have some movies in the 20s, didn't he?
Yeah.
But so this was considering most of the classics came from like the 50s and 60s, so this is like, his early work, even though
his British period when he was working in the UK before he came to the US for Rebecca.
Yeah, and this one was a woman gets on a train, and there's an old lady that she starts talking to, and then all of a sudden, like the next day, that lady is gone, and nobody on the train will admit to have ever seen her before. And she thinks she's going crazy until someone agrees with her, and they both try and get to the bottom of, wait, why is everybody denying that this lady even existed? And it's really cool, and it's early work of his most classic kind of film of an ordinary person put into like this bizarre situation. And I really dug this one a lot.
Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. People don't talk about it as much as they should.
And I don't know if I said, but that one's streaming on HBO Max. And then on Tubi TV, I watched Hard Target from 1993. I mean, all you need to know about this is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh yeah,
punches a rattlesnake, and then you also have now I can't think of who it was. Was it Wilford Brimley playing an old? I think it was Wilford Brimley playing a French like bootlegger out in the sticks in Louisiana. There's this group of people in Louisiana that are taking like homeless people with no family and giving them a belt with $10,000 on it and going, if you can get here before we get you, you can keep this $10,000. Well, by getting them, they mean before we kill you.
Oh, so it's like a dangerous game situation?
It kind of is. I think it was kind of based off of that. But then one guy gets killed and they didn't realize that he actually had a daughter. They didn't do their research very well. So then she comes looking for her father, and then Jean-Claude gets involved in it and helps her out. Like I said,
does he do the splits?
Oh, this is another one he did not do the splits in.
Oh,
but he punches a rattlesnake and knocks it out.
Nice.
So, I mean, that right there.
That counts for something.
That makes up for it a little bit. Oh, and this might be, I think it might be John Woo's first American film.
Well, okay.
So yeah, it's an early John Woo film, or early American John Woo film. Then I watched Go from 1999 on Pluto TV. This is one of those, after Pulp Fiction in 94, there was a lot of knockoffs in the late 90s. And this is one of the better ones. This is a couple of kids work in a grocery store, probably in their late teens or early 20s. And main one is
So you're saying that they're grocery clerks?
Yes, they are clerks. Yes. And it's kind of they go out looking for drugs. Sarah Polley plays a girl who's she's getting evicted, so she goes to another one of the coworkers, like drug dealers, to get drugs to try and sell them and make money on her own. One of her friends is played by Katie Holmes, and then there's two actors played by Jay Moore and Scott Wolf, and then William Fichtner is in it, and it follows like mostly the three clerks, and then also the Jay Moore and Scott Wolf character, and it tells the story like multiple times. It goes through each person's point of view of what's going on, and it was done really well because there's like phone conversations. So like one time you're going through the story, you see one half of the phone conversation, and all you see is his responses, and then the next time you go through, it's through someone else's point of view, and then you get the other side, and you're like, oh, that's what they were saying on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So it was put together really well, and this was probably one of the better, kind of Pulp Fiction knockoffs from the late 90s. Then on Netflix DVD, I rented Without a Clue from 1988. I love this movie. It's Ben Kingsley and Michael Caine. Michael Caine.
Nice.
So
you're saying that they were without a clue. Does that mean they were clueless?
Yes. And Alicia Silverstone. No. Ben Kingsley plays Watson, and this is a spin on Sherlock. And he basically writes stories about Sherlock solving stuff, and Sherlock actually does go out and help with the cases. And everybody loves Sherlock, who is played by Michael Caine. Well, it turns out that Watson actually solves all these things, and Michael Caine is just a drunk actor that he got to play the role in real life. So it's kind of just a fun twist on Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about Sherlock Holmes, because it's a public domain property at this point, where there's so many different versions of it. They can all be a lot of fun. You can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I like the ones that like put a twist on it, and because when people try and do like actual Sherlock, just like a straight up Sherlock story, like Guy Ritchie, I'm like, but that's not Sherlock Holmes, and you're not doing a twist. You're just doing Sherlock poorly. It was call it something else, because those movies are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like those movies.
I like those movies, but I'm going, it's not Sherlock, and it's not a twist on Sherlock. It's just Sherlock done poorly in a really cool film.
Yeah.
But something like this, where they just do a complete twist on it, sometimes I can be kind of a fan of that. Then on Criterion, I'm bummed off of your Criterion. I watched Hedwig and the Angry Inch again from 2001.
Nice.
And I think I talked about this one on another episode, so I won't go into that.
I still need to watch that one.
I am a fan, and it is on Criterion now. On Peacock TV, I watched Enemy of the State from 1998. This is a Tony Scott film with Will Smith. He gets caught up in this whole government thing with the NSA, and it's all about them tracking phones and all this stuff, and the ethics behind that. And
yeah, can you imagine if they did that?
I know. I was surprised this was 1998 because after 9/11 you heard a lot about this kind of stuff, but this movie was made in 98, several years before that happened, and really diving into how much they're with cell phones, they're just listening into everything and all that stuff. But John Voight plays a character in the NSA, and he's kind of doing things. He kills a politician at the beginning of the movie, and that's not a spoiler because that actually literally is you see him standing right there when his bodyguard kills the politician.
Oh, okay.
Well, then Jason Lee plays a guy who has it was out at a park, and he's filming geese for studies and all that stuff, and catches this murder on his tape. And then John Voight finds out about it, and they chase after him, and he drops it into Will Smith's bag. So that gets Will Smith involved. And then he ends up involved with an ex-NSA guy played by Gene Hackman. And then some of the people that work for the NSA that are chasing them is Seth Green and Jack Black. So another Jack Black movie.
I don't know if I could take Jack Black seriously in this movie.
Yeah, he's not too over the top in it. So he has a couple of lines that you're like, he had to get that in because he's Jack Black, but he was pretty good in it. This is a really cool, tense film and really well done, and directed by Tony Scott, like I said. So I would really recommend that one. That's on Peacock TV. And then when we watched Beautiful, I recommended Ikiru because because it had a similar theme to it, and I had never seen it though before, so I finally watched it. It is nice. It's also on HBO Max. They have a lot of good classic movies on. There's a TCM section under HBO Max. So, but yeah, this is from 1952, an Akira Kurosawa film. It did get a little long and drawn out, but it was a really good film about a man who kind of has this ho-hum job that he's been in the public works that he's been doing for 30 years and never does anything with his life. And then he finds out he has stomach cancer, and he goes, oh, I never really lived my life. And he tries to figure out what that means to live your life, better. And he tries a couple different things, and I think he finally figures it out in the end.
And Ikiru translates to live.
Yes. So it is a really sweet film. Sometimes the main actor, the old man who's got the stomach cancer, gets a little creepy, and I'm like, you're kind of weirding me out here, dude. But other than that, it is kind of a sweet, sad film. So I still recommend it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of Kurosawa's best.
And then, because I need to finish out the series, I watched Psycho 4, The Beginning.
Oh, yeah.
From 1990. So Anthony Perkins. I almost said Anthony Hopkins. I'm like, that's not right. Anthony Perkins played this character from 1960 until 1990.
Nice.
So 30 years of Norman Bates.
Hey, a gig's a gig.
No doubt, right? This one takes place, I don't know how long after the third one, but there's a radio show going on, and the host is CCH Pounder. So it's always good to see her in a film.
Nice.
And she's talking to a guy who wrote a book about mother killers. And so then Norman calls in as Ed and tells his story about growing up and killing when he was a kid, and his mother dying, and killing his mother and her boyfriend and all that. And so they do flashbacks to him. So you get to kind of see the origin of Norman Bates. And a young teenage Norman Bates was played by Henry Thomas. I did not know.
Interesting.
I did not know that he did this movie.
The E.T. kid?
Yeah. He was a teenager in this film. I thought he kind of disappeared until he became an adult and got in more stuff, but he did this when he was in his teens, it looks like. So I would say overall, I had a lot of fun watching all 4 Psycho films. I legitimately love Psycho 1 and 2, actually. And then 3 and 4 are just kind of fun. They're not necessarily great movies, but they were still entertaining and interesting. And each movie did something a little different. So
it should have been called Psycho 4: The Final Chapter.
Yes,
because then we give Psycho 5 a new beginning.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if we called it a final chapter, we know we would get another film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall,
I can't wait till Norman takes Manhattan.
Lock up your women in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend the whole Psycho series overall. I bought that Blu-ray set. I'd recommend it if you find it cheap somewhere.
Nice.
So, but that's what I've been watching lately.
Okay, so I've watched 18 movies this time because I have too much time on my hands. And first I watched Trouble in Mind. This one was, in my neo-noir series starring Chris Christopherson. This one was weird. I'm not sure if I can truly recommend it, but it's kind of takes place in the 40s, then also kind of takes place in the future. It's kind of ambiguous in this weird city about an ex-cop who went to prison, gets out of prison, tries to, sort of find his way after being an ex-con and an ex-cop. It was okay. Not sure how I felt about it. Next, I watched Mona Lisa. This is for the first Neil Jordan film, or at least one of his earlier ones, starring Bob Hoskins. And this one is fun because he plays a kind of a former gangster trying to go straight, so he gets a job driving around for this high-class escort girl. And then, things get more complicated because this is a neo-noir film.
Can I just say, I wish we had gotten more Bob Hoskins films.
Just in general, he's great.
Just in general, yes.
Next, I watched more. So we saying you would have wanted Super Mario Brothers 2, the movie?
Yes, or Super Mario World.
True, of course.
Yoshi's Island.
Perfect. As long as Dennis Hopper comes back too.
Yes, gotta have King Koopa.
Mm-hmm. Next, I watched Bedroom Window. This one was actually directed by Curtis Hanson. The L.A. Confidential guy.
Also, 8 Mile, right?
Yes, also 8 Mile.
Both excellent movies.
And this one's starring Steve Guttenberg.
What was this movie called?
Bedroom Window. This was on the Criterion Channel. And this one was, sort of a fun noir thriller, of course, because Steve Guttenberg is having an affair with, his boss's wife. And then, they witness an attack. And then they see the guy try and later kill someone, so they get called into court. But he doesn't want to expose his boss's wife, so he says, yeah, it was me. I saw it. And then in court, they find out, no, you couldn't have seen this because you're nearsighted, so things get even more complicated with the killer.
How come I've never heard of a Steve Guttenberg neo-noir film, and why have I never seen this? Because
I don't know.
I am very disappointed in myself.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, how does this relate to the Police Academy universe is my question.
Or the Short Circuit universe.
True. Or the Cocoon universe.
Or Don't Tell Her It's Me.
Or we should stop with Steve Guttenberg movies.
Never. 3 Men and a Baby.
Yes, finally. This must have been before he moved into that apartment.
I've seen them all. That's why I'm very disappointed that I haven't seen a neo-noir Steve Guttenberg film.
Yeah.
This is going on my list.
Okay. Next, I watch Abbott and Costello in Hollywood, and this time they play a couple of barbers, just starting out to being barbers in Hollywood. And then they meet a guy who's a really good singer, and he wants to be a movie star, so they try and end up helping him out. And of course, hilarity ensues, involving poor Costello going on a roller coaster while being chased by a bad guy trying to get him off the film set.
I've seen all the Universal Monster ones so many times, but I haven't watched a lot of Abbott and Costello outside of that. I need to introduce myself to some of that.
This one is pretty solid. Next, I decided I should start going through the Studio Ghibli movies because they're all on HBO Max. I talked about that a little earlier. First one I watched was Castle in the Sky. And it's about, there's airships.
A castle in the sky?
Yeah, there's a castle in the sky. And a young woman comes down to land after she got this weird magic crystal that protects her. She meets a boy about her age, and they decide, all right, we got to go find this castle in the sky and on an adventure. And then there's military, and there's cool air pirates. And, of course, it's gorgeously animated.
Yeah, I need to dive into that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Since they have a whole Ghibli section in HBO Max, like you said.
Yeah, they have all of them except, Grave of the Fireflies for some reason. Next, I watched another Studio Ghibli film. This one actually came out before Castle in the Sky. This was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Those two are both Miyazaki movies. And this is like Miyazaki post-apocalyptic, where there's like this toxic forest and these giant bugs. And humans are trying to stay alive and avoid like these crazy toxic things in this forest. Because if you get these toxins, you'll die. And then, that's bad. And then you could also die from all the giant bugs.
Dying is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this one was actually based off of a manga that was created by Miyazaki as well before he got into film. So that was pretty interesting too to see. So if you can find it, I'd check out some of this comics work. Because believe it or not, he's pretty good at the whole drawing thing.
Nice.
So yeah, I like this one. Once again, gorgeous animation. And look up the history behind this one because you'll find some interesting ones because apparently Disney first handled like an American release of this one and they did it really badly to the point where Miyazaki's like, oh, I'm never going to release another film in the US because of this, as it was handled so poorly. Until like John Lasseter was like, no, come on, help. I'll do anything I can. We got to make these movies more available.
Yes. And I'm glad they all are available.
I'm glad that they're available. But it's also worth noting that thanks, John Lasseter, for this, but you're still a serial harasser.
Yes.
And I'm glad you don't have a job anymore.
Indeed.
Next, I went to the movie theater and I saw Nia DaCosta's Candyman, which serves as a sequel to the 1992 classic.
Oh, so it's a sequel.
It is a sequel. And you can watch this without having seen the first one, but seeing the first one does enrich your experience enough. So, how familiar are you with the Candyman series?
I don't know if I've seen any of the sequels, but I've seen the original a few times.
Yeah, so basic plot, say his name 5 times, he'll come out and kill you. He's got a meat hook, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this one really changes it because the first one was shot in the real neighborhood, real public housing project of Cabrini Green. Well, now Cabrini Green is all gentrified. So it's about, a black artist and his girlfriend, and they're sort of living in this new area, and he's kind of discovering about this myth and urban legend the first time. And it really takes it and really recontextualizes it because even though it takes place in a very black neighborhood in a very black part of Chicago, the original was still kind of about, a white woman.
Yeah.
So this one really takes it in an interesting direction. Highly recommended. And, Jordan Peele was a producer, so you can see some of his influence. But Nia DaCosta does a wonderful job with the material. Very well written and pretty gory. And good to know that, you better watch out because Candyman kills almost exclusively white people in this one.
Nice.
And just has an absolutely devastating ending. So highly recommended.
I'm glad that you say it's good because I was looking forward to this one.
Mm-hmm. Solid. And don't say his name 5 times.
Does it erase the other sequels?
Yeah, it kind of ignores them in the way that like the new Halloween ignores them.
In the way like everything's doing now where it's like, let's take the original and make a new sequel and pretend all the other sequels don't exist.
Split the timeline. Next, I found out that Cruella was on regular Disney+. So I watched Cruella. Did you see this one?
No, I didn't really have a lot of interest in it.
That's fine, but if you were like a fashion kid, or maybe depending on the age of your kids, this would be fun because there are like these crazy like fashion battles where like at one point Emma Thompson is sort of like the old establishment fashion person, does cool stuff, and then you've got punk rock Emma Stone coming out as like fashion fights of doing all these crazy like art pranks to show how she's so much better and so much cooler than her. And I mean, it's dumb. At the beginning of the movie, we see that the reason she hates Dalmatians is because her mom was pushed over a cliff by some Dalmatians.
Yeah, of course, because, like, I know that I talked earlier about a movie where you have some sympathy for the bad guy, but I'm tired of, like, all of these bad guys that have always been bad guys, and you just, like, nope, they're just a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Disney is taking them on going, oh, but look, let's show their sympathetic backstory. Like, I'm sick of this formula. I'm done with it.
Yeah, but it really kind of doesn't really stick to that too much because she does do bad stuff. Like, it's fun. What I had fun with this because in parts it feels like it's mixed with like Ocean's 11 mixed with The Devil Wears Prada because there's high fashion drama with, the Meryl Streep type character played by Emma Thompson. But then also like these crazy elaborate like pranks that Cruella pulls, combined with like some just genuine like heist work.
I don't know. It could be fun, and if I watch it for any reason, it would be for Emma Stone. I really like Emma Stone, so
yeah. And then we've got Paul Walter Hauser as one of her minions, as Horace.
Nice. He showed up as this goofy character in Cobra Kai, and then I saw him as Richard Jewell in that movie, and he was great in that. Good for this guy.
Yeah.
I kind of like him.
Yeah, good for you. It's good to see him getting work.
Yeah.
Next, I watched The Time of Their Lives. This was another Abbott and Costello movie. I hadn't heard of this one before. And this one was interesting because it was made around like 1944, 1945. And they barely have any scenes together. The basic premise is that first it takes place around like Revolutionary War times, where Costello is like this sort of tinkerer, and he's trying to, he's a friend of George Washington. And then this kind of mean butler at this mansion is played by Abbott. So then Costello and a woman realize that the mansion owner is going to like sort of work with Benedict Arnold, try and betray the United States. So then they accidentally get shot by the good guys, and then they're cursed to become ghosts because they think they're traitors unless something is proved otherwise. Fast forward to the 1940s, they're still ghosts. And then it's a new couple moves in, tries to recreate the old mansion, bringing in all the old furniture and all the old crazy stuff. And they have a psychologist friend who also played by Bud Abbott. I'm sorry. So there is some good, like, ghostly special effects. But even though they don't have the usual back and forth, it still works together when they're kind of working separately, because Costello is still funny. He still does a lot of his pratfalls. And then he ends up sort of playing pranks half the time and just kind of messing with Abbott.
Oh, cool. That sounds fun.
So yeah, recommended. Solid special effects, especially for the mid-40s. It does feel like a ghost story, but a comedy instead of a horror movie.
Nice.
Next, I took a trip to Michael Mann land, and I watched Manhunter.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have the limited edition DVD of this. It's like one of those that's like even numbered like whatever out of 50,000 copies.
Yeah. Yeah. William Peterson as Will Graham, Tom Noonan as the Tooth Fairy, I guess. This is an adaptation of Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, a.k.a. the Silence of the Lambs guy.
Yes.
And, our good buddy Hannibal Lecter does make an appearance. This was his first screen version, played by Brian Cox. And I like Brian Cox's performance because it's still creepy, but just in a very different way, because it's almost just like extremely casual about everything. Like he doesn't care, but still trying to kill you.
I love his performance in this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is based. Yeah, you said it's based off Red Dragon. I think they didn't want to call it Red Dragon because it sounded like it might be like a martial arts, kung fu movie or something like, or maybe it was just the title didn't sound like it was going to be a detective serial killer thriller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they changed the title of this one. And then of course they kept the title Red Dragon when they remade it because everybody knew the character of Hannibal Lecter by then really well. So
also the score. Fun fact, there was a Manhunter reunion way later when William Peterson was on CSI. Tom Noonan came in for an episode.
Oh, nice. Which doesn't Inagata DeVita play while they're in the house at the end of the film?
Yeah, during the final confrontation.
Yeah, this is such a good film.
So great. Just really that Michael Mann style is on full display, and you just kind of bask in it. And also, I really like the relationship that Will Graham has with his wife and with his son. That's arguably the heart of the movie. So I guess, how do you like sort of, Hannibal Lecter, the character, that world? Did you watch the show Hannibal?
I've seen most of the first season. I'm going to pick that back up again after I'm done with a couple other shows.
Yeah, and Hannibal, the show is great.
Like that show.
Yeah, so I guess what I really like about this, Hannibal as a character is the fact that we've had three very different performances, because Mads Mikkelsen's version of Hannibal Lecter is wildly different than, say, Brian Cox, which is wildly different from Anthony Hopkins, but they're all really good.
Yeah, I was actually surprised because, like Anthony Hopkins, that's like an iconic performance, but you watch Brian Cox and you're like, he does something that's just, it's intriguing. Like this is what that might be one of my more favorite Brian Cox performances. And then Mads Mikkelsen is completely different. And even going into that, I was like, Mads Mikkelsen in this is this character, and I really like him. And I was like, I really like what he does in the show too. So like, all these different interpretations, kind of like the Joker. You get all these interpretations, but it's still the same character.
And they all still work in different ways.
Yeah, they all work in their own way.
Does that mean Jared Leto's going to try to play Hannibal Lecter next and be bad at it?
Yes. he's going to finally play the worst Hannibal Lecter.
All right, next I watched the new Amazon version of Cinderella with Camila Cabello and Billy Porter as the fabulous godmother, aka fairy godmother. Full disclosure, I watched this movie just for Billy Porter, and he was great in it, all like 5 minutes of him.
My wife watched this, and she said she had a good time watching it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of a weird mix between a jukebox musical where they have some licensed song, and then there's like a couple songs they made just for it. So like, pick one. It's fine. Idina Menzel does a great job as the evil stepmother. Some jokes were fun. Like the prince gets his bros so he can hang out with his bros.
Nice.
Pierce Brosnan is the king. Minnie Driver's the queen. Minnie Driver doesn't get enough to do, which is a shame. But they do make fun of Pierce Brosnan singing. They do make him sing really badly at one point. So that's kind of funny.
Minnie Driver hasn't gotten enough to do in her whole career. I love Minnie Driver.
Yeah, it's great whenever she shows up. Especially, I think she's probably at her best. If you ever saw the show Speechless.
No, but I think that was an ABC show, and I've seen clips of it, and I think I might have seen an episode once, and yeah, she's great in that.
Next, I continued my Ghibli-thon, Ghiblissance, Ghibli, my giblets. Yeah, giblets. And I went back to My Neighbor Totoro. I had seen this one before, and it kind of left me cold the first time around, but watching it this time, I think I locked it right better, and this is, obviously, I'm not the audience for this. This is made for younger kids. But it is still interesting, and I do think it's well made. And you do get sort of these iconic, cool moments, like jumping around, flying around with Totoro as he's flying around on this weird top, growing a giant tree, or the cat bus, or stuff like that.
Nice. Do you watch all these subbed or dubbed?
They have the dub version on HBO Max, so I'm watching them dubbed.
Okay, I was going to ask how the dubbing is on these.
Because it's Studio Ghibli. And because Disney and G-Kids shelled out the money for some solid dubs, we get some good dubs.
Okay, good. I might have to, on one of my next, when it's my pick to do a movie night again, I might have to pull out a Ghibli.
Then I went back to 1959 in my Wayback Machine and Disney Plus and watched the original Shaggy Dog with Fred MacMurray.
Awesome.
I was only familiar with the Tim Allen version.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot he did the remake.
Yeah, well, plus Robert Downey Jr.'s in that movie, too, as a bad guy.
Oh, that's right.
But yes, this one is like a boy who's helping like a new neighbor move in, who's like a weird archaeological professor, finds a weird ring. Ring turns him into a dog. And of course, his dad hates dogs in like a sitcom-y sort of way.
Yes.
Yeah, black and white, so this goes right with stuff like Dennis the Menace, that sort of...
I mean, it is a sitcom dad in the movie, so...
Yeah, true, it is. My Three Sons was his sitcom, so...
But it's also the Double Indemnity guy.
Yeah, so I would love to see if this was like Double Indemnity with a dog.
Baby. That's the one thing I remember like distinctly about Double Indemnity is how many times he calls that woman baby in that movie. Baby.
Fred MacMurray's so cool.
What's that?
Fred MacMurray is so cool.
He is.
Barbara Stanwyck. Double Indemnity is great. Double Indemnity with the dog, I'm going to say. Well, actually, he kind of does find out that these guys are like plotting against the U.S. in some way by just sort of being the dog. But then like, whoa, what happens when he turns into a human again and he's still in the room and like, oh no, how'd you get in here? He's going to get kidnapped or whatever. It's very silly, very some that kind of late 50s, 60s Disney era.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid. Was it still enjoyable?
Yeah, it was still fun, still silly. These movies don't take themselves very seriously, neither should you. And I did realize there was a sequel made much later.
The Shaggy DA.
The Shaggy DA. And I guess, since there's still the lawyer plot does that mean that the Tim Allen Shaggy Dog is
closer
to the Shaggy DA?
Maybe. I don't know.
How deep does the Shaggy Dogiverse go?
I don't know.
Okay. Next, I went back to Michael Manland for Thief with James Caan.
Oh, excellent film.
Yeah. Solid character work. James Caan really delivers, and just, great heist sequences, great soundtrack, got that mood, got some neon signs. You're just, I'm all over it.
And that opening scene where he's breaking into that safe, he's using actual thieves' tools and breaking into an actual safe. He learned how to do that stuff because that's Michael Mann's MO, is doing everything as accurate as possible. He had, and actually in this movie, I think there were actual cops playing some of the thieves, and there were actual there was either actual thieves playing in the movie or they consulted with him about all of this stuff, so that everything was done accurately about them breaking into safes and stuff.
And I assume he talked to actual serial killers for Manhunter.
Probably, I wouldn't put it past him.
He probably talked to FBI guys. That's for sure.
I'm pretty sure that he actually did do research with FBI people for that movie, because every movie he does, he gets people who actually deal with the thing he's dealing with and gets their extreme input to make sure everything's accurate. Again, that's why I say Black Hat is his worst movie, because he's so accurate that you're watching Chris Hemsworth hack into things, and it's literally just him at a keyboard just typing for 2 hours, and it's just boring.
Yeah, movies haven't really cracked how to make hacking interesting yet.
No, you have to make it really unrealistic, like 90s movies like Hackers.
I was going to say in Swordfish.
Swordfish. I know people hate on that movie, but I had so much fun with that movie.
Sad, where Hugh Jackman has to hack into something with a gun to his head or something.
And the fun hacker movies always have the person at the 3 keyboards and 18 screens up on the wall, and and really a real life hacker just has a laptop and is just typing away.
My favorite version of bad movie or bad TV hacking is probably an NCIS, where they've got the basic setup. The test we're being hacked. Just go typing. One person typing on one side of the keyboard. There's here, let me help. Another person types on another side of the keyboard.
Oh, that was one thing I had a question about a comment that I forgot to say about the movie Enemy of the State, is because it's a lot of surveillance. So the NSA is going, oh, we're tracking this guy and we're getting footage from the stores and all this stuff. And then they get a footage of Will Smith in a store where the thing was dropped in his bag. And they're like, oh, okay, now rotate this footage, and you're rotating the character. I'm going, it's a stationary camera. How do you rotate him? You can't do that. But then later in the movie, they're looking down from a satellite from space, and then they're like, oh, he's not looking up. And it's well, can't you just get a look at his face? And they're like, it's going straight down from space, you idiot. So they have to look at, I'm going, yeah, but you just rotated a video footage earlier. It's what? So
it was a Matrix situation where they had a bunch of cameras lined up.
Yeah, right. that surveillance, or the surveillance in that store is just 30 cameras around the.
Exactly. Next, I went back to Ghibli, my giblets, and watched Kiki's Delivery Service, and it was another great one. I remember watching the trailer for this one a bunch and never actually watching the movie, because it was on it was one of the trailers on some tape of a Disney movie we had. It's oh, this one looks great. And it is. It's about a young witch, and in this world, witches have to have 1 year to go finish their training by themselves, finish their witch or Jedi training or whatever. So she goes off to a new city and has to make her own way in the world.
All right.
And she does it by doing deliveries on her broom. Sweet. With her black cat named Gigi, who's kind of annoying, and voiced by Phil Hartman. Which just...
Is it Lionel Hutz the cat?
It's not, but I just really wanted to put Lionel Hutz dialogue in there to see that instead. Next, I watched Only Yesterday, another Ghibli film. This one wasn't released till later, so this was late 80s, but it didn't get released in the US, probably to 2016, 2017. And this one is not quite as exciting as some of the other ones, not quite as fantastical. It's about a young woman who's an office worker in 1982, and then for her summer vacation, she goes to like these rural farming communities and just helps out on the farm for a whole summer. And it's in addition to that, it also does a lot of flashbacks with her back in like her 5th grade experience. These are all in more good dubs. This one had Daisy Ridley as the main woman, so definitely much more recent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good animation, but also like I feel like this movie could have easily been made in live action, look just as fine with the flashbacks. It doesn't try and do anything really interesting with the animation as much as I wanted it to. Because if you're going to animate a movie, you should use the strength of animation as a medium. And I feel like this one didn't do that. But of course, it's still a good story and still gorgeous overall.
Cool.
Next, I watched The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And this one was kind of fun because you see the exorcism at the beginning of the movie and you kind of have to work backwards from there.
Yeah.
With, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are back again as the Warren family, the Warrens, working together to try and stop, a demon and a curse, the usual. If you've seen a Conjuring movie, you kind of know what you're in for at this point.
And of course, she gets in too deep again.
Yep.
I like this one. I like the 3 core Conjuring movies that, like I said before, do I believe the Warrens? Not really.
No, but as a work of fiction, it's fun.
Yeah, they're good stories.
Yep, I think my favorite is still probably the first one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because that's kind of like James Wan firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And I know he's got a new project coming up. I'll have to see that one too.
Yeah.
And lastly, I was able to sneak into the movie theater again and watch Free Guy.
Oh, I want to see this one.
Free Guy was great. Ryan Reynolds. And this is, the best way to describe this movie is like, what happens when an NPC in like a Grand Theft Auto type video game comes to life and starts being the good guy, by helping other NPCs. Again, decided not to be terrible. So it's this, but also combined with it's like Ready Player One, but good. Because it has a lot of fun video game jokes, but it also remembers to have a story with likable characters.
Okay. I don't have the problems with Ready Player One that other people do, but but yeah, I can get that though. I understand what you're saying about it.
I definitely think this is a lot because this movie, because Wade Watts as a character is kind of boring in Ready Player One. He's just like, a normal guy who's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, I can see that.
But, the main character, Guy, in Free Guy, is just a genuinely nice person who's just happy to be here. Happy that even though he's in this terrible video game world where crazy stuff happens to him all the time, he's just awesome. Really sweet. Oh, and I forgot about one. I didn't write this down, but of course how could I forget? I saw Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. So it's fun. I really liked what they did with the Ten Rings because I'm not sure how familiar with you with Shang-Chi comics.
Not really. I did pick up a couple weeks ago one of those. Hey, the movie's coming out, so here's a couple of Shang-Chi stories. And I read through that, and I kind of liked the character. He's just kind of a mellow, kind of guy. I like try and teach you teach you lessons like the old kung fu masters kind of guy. So I don't know if they
as written by a bunch of white guys in the 70s who do that.
yeah. So you have that, but
I really like this. Basic premise. Sean is just a regular guy, sort of just trying to live in a small little life in San Francisco. Him and his best friend Katie, played by Awkwafina. And then, people start fighting. Turns out he's an amazing fighter, and he finds out that his real name is Shang-Chi. And his dad is the leader of this Ten Rings organized crime organization. And his dad is over 1,000 years old because he uses the magic of the Ten Rings to fight people. And what I really like the versatility of what they did with the rings, and it's not like rings on your finger, it's kind of like rings, almost like bracelets. Yeah. You would wear 5 on each arm, and then you could shoot them at people. You could use it to block projectiles. You can use them to jump. So I really just enjoyed the versatility of what they actually used, sort of the titular rings, because let's face it, I'm not familiar with anything about the 10 Rings from the comics.
I don't know anything other than there are 10 rings on the hands of whoever, and
of the bad guy.
Yeah.
Who's called the Mandarin.
The Mandarin on the hands of the Mandarin, and they're magical.
Yeah, so this really does kind of almost invent its own stuff to do with the Ten Rings. I'm not sure if there's anything from the comics for it, because Shang-Chi was a character who was like, oh yeah, I see that in the dollar bin, I see that in the quarter bin. His comics were always easy to find because they were never super popular.
Yeah. He's not a character like from the stories I was reading. It's like it's not a character that does a lot of.
Yeah, he was never a member of the Avengers or anything.
No. So it's just one of those side Marvel characters that occasionally had a story here and there.
But this, yeah, does a lot of work with him, and then it does bring back Ben Kingsley from Iron Man 3.
Oh, sweet. That's worth the price of admission alone.
Yes. So that's kind of a fun
Trevor?
surprise. Is back as Trevor, this weird actor guy who shows up, and he has a fair amount of screen time, which I was surprised in the second half. I thought it was just going to be like a one joke and then he was going to be killed off. But no, he sticks around, and he actually has some important plot points, which is really funny. And then Tony Leung plays sort of Shang-Chi's dad as sort of the main villain of the piece. And he's great if you saw him in like In the Mood for Love, another Hong Kong actor. But yeah, he's also extremely good looking and very charming in this performance. And they even mentioned Iron Man 3 is like, yeah, she's like, yeah, some white guy took the name of my group for like to pretend to be a terrorist or whatever. Like he named himself after a chicken dish. So it does kind of reclaim some of that stuff and just say like, yeah, with all these, actually Asian characters, meaning like, you guys are dumb.
Awesome. I love it.
Also, good action, good movie, and, can't wait to see what they cook up next.
Yeah, I'm ready for that to come out on video or whatever so I can see it.
And that's all I watched. I can't believe I forgot Shang-Chi. So it's 19 movies, actually.
That's a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm.
What's up next on the docket?
I'll probably continue my Ghibli-a-thon with Porco Rosso, and I'm still trying. I'm almost done with the Neo-Noir on Criterion Collection.
I've got like your Medea left.
And I've still got to work through the Medea-verse too. I don't know what comes next in that one. No Medea movies this time.
Next for me is you had mentioned James Wan's *Malignant*. I think it came out it's either tonight or tomorrow. Today's Thursday.
Yeah, it's like the 10th, and we're recording this on the 9th. So yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if it was like the other movies that actually ended up coming out Thursday night. So I might have to check it out tonight and see if it's on HBO Max yet.
Watch out! It could be too spooky.
Too spooky. I gotta watch it late at night with all the lights off. Yeah, that's next on my list. Things to watch.
One last note about Candyman. It did legitimately get under my skin.
Nice.
It's like, so I gotta call somebody. So it's like, I was home alone. No, it's like, I watched it by the theater myself, went home. There's no one home. It's like, oh my gosh. And you just end up calling my mom just to talk to someone. Just like, okay, I'm okay.
I remember Candyman came out in 93?
Like 92, 93.
So I would have been like late middle school, early high school. Watched this with some friends, and we did the whole thing, watched the movie, and then afterwards we went into the bathroom and said Candyman into the mirror 3 times or 5 times or whatever, to try and spook ourselves.
And then you got Tony Todd's autograph.
Yes. Actually, a friend of mine does have his autograph because in the 501st, everybody has nicknames, and his nickname is Candyman. Well, he went to a Comic-Con or something somewhere one time and told him about this, and I think that Tony Todd actually signed the inside of his Stormtrooper helmet with that said Candyman on there.
Nice.
So I've still never met Tony Todd. I would love to. I love when he shows up in movies. He's great.
Yeah, he's got a hit in his voice, man. It's just like I could listen to him just like read off like the McDonald's dollar menu and be fascinated.
Well, I know, because a lot of times he's used in horror movies as a just as a narrative, like let's move the plot forward and just have him kind of spout
the exposition man.
The exposition man. That's the word I was looking for. Exposition. He's exposition man in movies like Final Destination. He's just the mortician, or the mortician who's just down there and he goes, well, let me tell you about death. And then he just goes into it, just like, all it is he's just spouting exposition, but you're still like, it's Tony Todd. This is creepy and I love it. So
I'm curious if he's ever done any like audiobook work, because I feel like he'd be great at that.
That'd be cool.
Moral of the story, Tony Todd is awesome.
Yes.
And Studio Ghibli, something, my giblets and my neo-noirs.
And this one's running a little long today, so we're going to say you can find us on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
I'm at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled Satern.
We're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. You can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep watching movies.
Something Candyman. Bloody Candy Mary.
Ah.